G'day to everyone who's tuned in for episode 201. If you watched the video where just Mike and I have been raising our eyebrows because Rocket was there. Rocket was there and then he was gone, but he's back. Sorry, mate. We were getting worried. You just dropped off the screen. Of course, we all of our podcasts, we're interstate. Mike's in the city of Melbourne. I'm in the Mornington Peninsula. Rocket's up in Brisbane. If you know us well, you know all of that. But if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Rocket's in Brisbane. He dropped out, and we got a bit panicked that we'd started, the best introduction ever in the 200s episode series, and Rocket had dropped out. Welcome back. How are you, mate?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Well, thanks for joining back after the technical issues there. You are the technical expert. Rocket, we've all got different backgrounds tonight. I've got a background on it. It means something that's happened for me in the week. You've got a background up there. What was that series? The TV series back in the 80s. So it's more my vintage than your vintage. The Muppets. The two grumpy old men. For those that don't choose to watch us on YouTube, if you do watch us on YouTube, the growing YouTube channel, we're about to hit 200 subscribers. For goodness, you know what's. And when we hit 200 subscribers, Mike's going to give away some more King Island cheese. People, the Cheese Fest was very popular in helping us get at least 7 more subscribers. Well, we've got about 12 to go, and Mike's going to give an even bigger bumper cheese pack from King Island. I'll be going to King Island soon, more on that later in a few episodes coming up, but special little projects coming my way. Final things being tuned into that. It's going to be a very special one. But yeah, Mike will bring some King Island cheese. So subscribe and you can watch us. But if you are listening, Rocket's got the Muppets as his background on his Zoom. Why have you got the two?
Well, it's Waldorf and Statler. As I said the other week, I'm the grumpy old guy at the end of the bar.
Mm.
And, a few people have called me on the Discord channel a bit of a grump about everything that's going on with golf. So I thought, well, I'm just going to lean into my grump character and just be the grumpy old buggers up in the booth, just hurling abuse and having a bit of a giggle.
Are you all right, mate? Like it has been noted that, that you're getting a bit churlish in your, not even old age. Jeepers weepers, you're probably the youngest one of the three of us. You all right? Everything okay?
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
It's
a few of the listeners are checking in to see how I am, though. I appreciate it. I appreciate them.
and actually, people have checked in with me. If they haven't checked in with you directly, they have asked me, "Is Rocket all right? Is he okay? He's we follow him on Twitter. He's getting a bit aggressive there on Twitter as well. Oh dear. Mike, how are you?
Excellent, mate. Excellent.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for giving up a bit of your football time. It's not your team playing in the finals at the moment, not tonight, but two big teams who we got Richmond and Brisbane playing
Tigers
tonight.
And in Brisbane. Got a couple of mates that have gone up for the game. So they're,
really?
They're up in Rocketland. It's funny, I know not many of our listeners, or not all of them, would be AFL followers, but yeah, we obviously have the week off between the normal season and when the finals start. So this is the first of the 4 games.
A couple of North Melbourne boys in the store on Monday. I said, how long you guys got off? A few weeks, like 4 or 5 weeks? 3 months. 3 months until the senior boys on the...
they must be in the older set. Yeah.
That, the ones that didn't make the finals going back. Anyway, enough of that. It's been a massive week in golf. There's plenty to talk about, probably more than we've got time for. And the game of golf just keeps giving to people like us who like to talk, catch up on a weekly basis and, share our thoughts and views with each other and, have the benefit of people who want to listen in. We've delayed this week's episode so all of the events of the week could unfold. Not having the review of the Tour Championship out, on the day after doesn't really matter in consequence of what's happened since, because it all just folds into each other. And, I think the stuff that was being talked about happening has happened, and now it's finally here. Obviously we're talking about Smith, Marc Lieshman and the others that have, left the PGA Tour and moved to LIV happened. But we should really just go back and talk about the Tour Championships. I know you guys were heavily invested in that. We had the culmination of the tipster program. So we've got the winner to announce. I did bump into one of our very loyal listeners up in Sydney during the week who was up the top end of the tipping, but it was such a random meeting with one of our very loyal listeners, and we'll talk about that in a sec. So who wants to kick us off with, the wrap up of last week's Tour Championship? What a finish. Wasn't what I expected to happen, but, anything can happen. Who wants to head off? Mike, you want to
go? Yeah, for sure.
Okay, go.
It was it's probably the event that I think there's probably a lot of conjecture about what's good about it and what's bad about it. And the PGA Tour really tried to make it their final, their grand final. And it's pretty difficult. It is a difficult thing to do, knowing even just from my social group that I play in, to try and figure out a way to reward people that have played well all year, but still make the final worth something. So, as we know, the PGA Tour does it by giving people a head start. And Scotty Scheffler started 10 under. And I know a few people that I think it was you, Ross, or someone had told me that they'd passed, they were near past the TV and said, gee whiz, he must be playing well today, looking at his round one score, not realising that he started at -10. Yeah, it is tricky to do. I think it's probably one of those things that doesn't really fuss me. I don't know of a better way to do it. I know people have talked about, maybe they do a match play, or maybe they do this, maybe they do that. I don't know. I don't think there's a good or a bad way to do it. I think it is what it is. But Scotty started 10 under, and he was a red hot favourite, and he played very, very well right up until the final round. He probably saved some of his worst golf of the year versus the field for the final round. And you can't do that in a 30-man field, and you certainly can't do that in a 30-man field filled with the best players on the PGA Tour, the best players in the world.
Now, Rocket, you and I have been doing this for 200 episodes, and pretty much right from day dot, we've talked about Rory McIlroy. We've talked about him in the good times. We've talked about Rory McIlroy in the challenging times, and there's been plenty of both. When you look at Rory McIlroy as this year's, what is he, FedEx Cup champion? Is that the right way to term what? How do you rate and review Rory McIlroy's performances and overall year this year?
He is the chosen one. Anakin McIlroy is the chosen one.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like he is putting the PGA Tour on his back and carrying it over the line. He's the only one showing any leadership. If you look about his wins, his communication, everything, like as a whole, not just the Net Club Championship, but how he's conducting himself, he's the only one showing any leadership. So literally, he is the chosen one. The Sith Lords are nowhere to be found. So Anakin McIlroy is the one that is lifting up and holding up and bringing light to the darkness.
He's not mincing his words when it comes to how he feels about the defectors from the PGA Tour. He's not mincing his words when he's telling us how he's going to respond when he sees them, maybe at Wentworth, or not respond to them directly, is probably more to the point, which you have to, he's putting his convictions behind those words, and, you can't just say one thing and then behave like another. So, he's a company man. He really is the golfer's example of what a company man looks like. He is the company man. And, they couldn't have scripted it any better, really, could they?
Nope.
Did they script it? They didn't script it? They didn't say, hey, Scotty, just pull the handbrake on and let the boss overtake you?
No.
Okay.
Look, it's outside of winning a major, Rory's had a really good year.
Mm-hmm.
And there's little bits and pieces where it's kind of falling into place. So I'm happy about that. He's still not the silver medalist or anything like that, but, he's still the chosen one. So it's just an all out great performance by him. And his last 4 months has been really, really good. He's played some seriously good golf. And maybe him putting this kind of pressure on himself and this kind of, he's always been quite thoughtful and kind, but I feel like this has given him a little bit of a purpose and a real focus. And I think in a way, it's potentially actually helping his golf, because there's a villain that he's chasing, right? And for him, it's like, could be taking pot shots at the shark, or, they go back and forth. There's some good ones. But purely, like, there's a lot of it's directed at those, we'll call it, as you said, the defectors.
I actually subscribe to that theory in relation to Rory, and you think back about some of his, I'll just say failures, like the Masters and, all of the other big events where he's fallen over at the penultimate round and whatever. And, the body language and the self-talk and the, oh, Rory and that sort of tonality, he seems different now. And maybe I do subscribe that he's got a beef axe to grind, and he's, there's plenty of other sports where people have that mentality and attitude and go out and demolish people. So I don't think you're too far away from the mark. We're not experts in that field, but I don't think that's very much a possibility. Mike, when you look at Rory's stats over the year, his achievements, how's this year been for him, overall in terms of strokes gained and all of those other things? People love to know how people play. To put you on the spot, sorry, you probably
no, that's fine. He's good at everything. Makes it easy. Makes it easy to talk about what he's good at. He's good at everything. The one thing that when he goes his best is when his putter's hot. But everything else, he's elite. So his total strokes gained, he's averaging probably just north of 2 strokes on the field and any given round, which is exceptional. Putting, he's above average, probably just above plus minus at strokes gained. Around the green, a little bit better than that. His approach game is elite. He's, again, sitting right around 1, just under 1 strokes gained on the field per round in approach. Off the tee, he's a freak show, obviously, as we know. So that's where he's picking up probably closer to just north of 1. But yeah, overall, he's good at everything.
Yeah, I think he's slowly starting to improve that 150 and in. Actually, didn't he start with a triple?
Yeah. Tom Kim gave him the Tom Kim, because Tom Kim, Joo-Young Kim, 2 weeks ago when he won, started the tournament with a quad.
Started,
or whatever
that's
it was.
Right, he did too.
He was 11 off the lead through 1 and ended up winning. And Rory said he actually thought of Tom Kim when he made the triple, and said, well, I know people, you can fight back from me. And so he made that quote in his press conference, and Tom Kim wrote back on Twitter and wrote, "You're welcome." So it's pretty good.
Did we ever talk about, speaking of Tom Kim, the Australian connection that Tom Kim has? Did we talk about that on the podcast?
I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast. I know we spent some time here. I can't remember where it was. Obviously when he was younger, but he lived with someone, didn't he?
Oh, I think he did. But what I do know is Matt Griffin, big fan of the podcast, and I'm a big fan of Matt. Followed him with Ernie Els inside the ropes for a day at the Open, just to remind people that that's what I did. Matty Griffin's dad was Tom Kim's teacher.
Gotcha.
You
might have said that. I can't
remember if I did. I remember I put something on Twitter saying his Australian connection. But yeah, Matty Griffin's dad was his teacher. There you go, yeah, Tom Kim. Okay.
Very good golfer, and we'll be playing President's Cup. So no, he's exceptional, and when you go into his driving, his distance is unbelievable, but his accuracy is right around tour average. So when you pick up someone who hits it miles, but actually can still be tour average in accuracy,
massive advantage.
A weapon, absolute weapon. Yeah.
So, what was the rundown of the final? Well, let's not do the 30, but let's do the top 15. Where did it all finish up?
Top 15 players that finished up.
Yeah.
From 15th, 4 guys tied for 15th. Victor Hovland, Fitzpatrick, JT Poston, and John Rahm. Aaron Wise and Jordan Spieth tied for 13th. Hideki and Neiman tied for 11th. Now they're at 13 under, and the winner's at 21. So they're close, but not really. Obviously, with the starting strokes and everything else, it is exacerbated a little bit. Hoagie at -14, Finau -15, Cantlay 16, Sepp Straka 16, which is good. JT at 17, Homer at 17. Very good finish. Very good last 3 rounds from Maxwell.
Was his second round. Oof.
Good golf. Xander, who prints money at that course, finished 4th at T8 at -18. And then, the man who fell backwards, Scotty Scheffler, was T2 with Sung Jae Im. Sung Jae Im's the other one who two people that we gave last week that we thought might go well were Sung Jae and Xander, and they finished in the top 4. But yeah, the one who pipped Sung Jae for the gross was Rory. Rory's final round not only got in the overall win, the net win, but it also got in the gross by 1 over Sung Jae, which was a little bit disappointing for me. But
where was Max on the gross? He was pretty close on the gross, was he not?
He was, yeah. I think he was maybe 1 or 2 back behind from Sung Jae. Yeah.
2. He finished 3 behind Rory.
Yeah, so he would have been 2 behind Sung Jae Im. So yeah, they had exceptional weeks. Yeah,
and Willie Z finished tied for 24th.
Well, Sung Jae, Willie Z gets a check. He gets $500,000, something like that. As he's.
Did they go? How did they do it? Just pure last place, or they just try?
Yeah. Even if you make 30th, you get a check. Yep, no matter what. Yeah. It's not one of the ones. Normally, I think the WGCs you actually have to tee off and hit a ball to be qualified at DQ. But even if it's beforehand, no, you don't get subbed in. He's getting a check for 30th.
How's that? Started at -7 DFL. It didn't even finish DFL.
No.
Well, the PGA Tour are going to be handing out checks, before people even strike balls in the coming year as part of their realignment of their processes to, build a stronger and better PGA Tour, to give the rookies a better chance at establishing themselves. We'll talk about that and some of those changes that we know about in a bit. Hits and misses. Sepp Straka was a bit of a smoky. I had him in my tipster because I couldn't pick anyone else because I'd picked everyone. I'd outpicked myself. I thought I had someone big left, but anyway, I went with Sepp Straka, and he got me some money. He didn't really climb me up the ladder any further, but he did get me some winnings in the final event.
His last month has been huge.
Yeah, his last month was great.
Do you know anything about Sepp Straka, Mike?
He's Austrian, I think. Is he Austrian? I think he's Austrian. Yeah, he is. I'm pretty sure he went to the Olympics off the top of my head.
So you're wrong, Rocket.
I'm almost certain he played college golf though.
Okay.
Rocket would probably know better than that. But something in my brain. So this is how well I'm going. I always mix him up, not that they sound the same, but with Henrik Norlander. And I've got a funny feeling that Sepp Straka plays down Georgia way, but I could be mixing them up again.
Is it Georgia Bulldog or something?
Yeah, that's what's in my brain. Look it up. And you'll tell me, no, you went to LSU, which is not miles away. But
I know nothing about him.
Speaking of, while Rocket's looking that up to prove me wrong, Teepster. There was
University of Georgia. He's a Georgia Bulldog. He was with everyone else.
It's in my brain. It's all in there somewhere. The Tour Junkies, listening to the Tour Junkies for so long for 2 boys from Georgia, it's all stuck in my head somewhere. We did have one person pick Rory and get Rory for the win for the Tour Championship in Teepster. Yes, AB. AB. He's on Discord as well. He's in the Discord group.
Okay, well, I wonder if we know AB. Is that Adam Baldwin?
I don't know.
Sure. There you go.
I know he's in the group as AB, and he's got some numbers after his on his handle.
Yeah, fair enough.
And he was very quick to mention in the Discord that he picked the winner, and good luck to him because he was the only one.
Well, he's either very lucky or a strategic genius for leaving Rory to the end.
He did. So I think he said something along the lines of, he had a handful of people left and he had a handful of people he wanted to pick, but somehow I reckon at the last pick that AB went and said, no, I'm going to take Rory. I mean, it was a good decision. There was a few of us with Scotty Scheffler, one being me. We got second place. PK, Justin Bissica, Hammertow, and Golf Labyrinth and Smiling Golfer all had Scotty Scheffler. And the doctor had Sung Jae Im, which was a very good pick for the doctor because that put marketing all the way up into second place, chasing down our eventual winner.
Now, if you've just picked up the My Love of Golf vibe and you decided there's an Australian podcast that have cracked 200 episodes, I might jump on because they seem to be keeping going. So we're talking about our tipping competition, which was run through the entirety of the PGA Tour season. It's run by Michael, who's the Aussie golfer, and it's part of what he does through Australia's biggest blog site, etc. Also a supporter of ours. We've had a number of reviews on Aussie Golfer blog site about Australia's better podcasts, and we appreciate him for that. We might try and get Michael on to talk about Teepster because I think it really did help us and give us something else that we could engage with the people who, there's 70 odd people in there that were part of that program, and we just talked about it on here. We didn't do anything. There's no email list, or there's nothing else. There's no incentive for people to join. Just people join. But I definitely know from the people that we know, it got everyone talking, and they look forward to it week in, week out. So we'll definitely be doing that again. If there's any way that we can expand it and do things differently ourselves and make it more fun, it's not sponsored or anything. You don't have to pay to get into it. There's no commitment. You just got to do your tips. The system emails you a reminder, gives you a countdown, tells you who you have picked and haven't picked. It's one and done. So that means you can only pick one player once. And it was a lot of fun. And it certainly is a good way to keep you engaged with the PGA Tour. But, there's a lot of people that know each other. And I think it gave the people that know each other something to talk about related to golf each week as well. And one of those people I bumped into this week, gents, I had the opportunity to go to Sydney. I went up there to test out a new Bushnell product, unbelievable laser rangefinder. It does everything bar hit your golf shot in terms of what it does for you to help you hit the golf shot. More about that later. It's the Pro X3. It's unbelievable. But up in Sydney.
So you had to fly to Sydney to sort of see if it would go from Sydney to the Drummond, Melbourne.
Well, you've got
your distance.
Yeah, seven PK North is.
Well,
987 kilometers away.
I will tell you. I will tell you. I'll give you one little snippet of information what this laser rangefinder does do. It has elements. So elements is not new technology for Bushnell. Elements is basically, my current rangefinder can, if you turn it on, take into the elements the barometric pressure and give you distances with that factored in. Well, this one factors in your home elements detail, so it knows how far you have a distance given around your home base. You plug that into the app in the phone. It knows where you usually play. So when you go to other elevations, it gives you a distance at that elevation and how that equates to what your home elevation would be. Yeah, I know. I can see you squinting. It's hard to explain.
No. It's like a little caddy. It's like a little caddy in your hand.
Yep.
Can you use that? Are you allowed to use those things?
No, of course not.
Tournament round.
No, of course not. No, you can't use any.
So it's perfect for Patrick Reed then.
Yes, exactly. Made for Patrick. No, you can't use any of that stuff. Slope. It has slope, of course. So now it gives you slope, and it gives you a elements adjusted and an elements adjusted to your home turf. So if you're playing at elevation, it's going to say, well, this is what it would mean if you were hitting on your distance at your.
So Patrick would be lining it up, and he'd be lining it up over his ball, and he'd be saying to himself, my element is everyone thinks I'm looking at the flag while I'm moving my ball out of the rough with my foot.
I don't know if any of that's embargoed or not. I hope not, but but it's bloody good. So
back in my day, mate, we just stepped everything off from the back plate and you figured it out from there. None of this fandangle bloody technology stuff.
I did actually play recently like that just to remind myself about it, which I think everyone should do. Well, you should do it if you've played that way. Like we played like that as a junior. There was we had no measurements. So I think it was a great advantage to be able to grow up and play with that distance measuring devices.
Yeah.
Because you develop a feel for the ability to hit different shots.
100%. No, mate, I love my Bushnell. I should say that we're not sponsored by Bushnell, but I do love it. But I have forgotten it, or I've taken out the half set here and there.
Well, it's like you leave your arm at home. You've lost you've lost playing with one hand.
I got no idea what. that feel is not there anymore. And even on Sunday when we played, I had a shot into a one of the holes. It was a short little pitch. And I just pull it out and I'm like, oh, yeah. Whereas normally, like you said, back in the day, you just go look at it and go, right, I can feel this is like a little half this. You didn't have to worry about measuring it off, but now it's just an automatic.
No, you would have found you would have found a peg. You would have stepped it off and gone, oh, here's 100%. The pin at the front of the back. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She's pull out a scorecard, read the back of it.
She's about 78.
Sprinkler markers to the front or sprinkler markers are to the center of green. I'm looking for that on the card.
Or when you forget, like, you think it's like to the front and it's actually to the center and you airmail it.
Who was it?
Wrong course.
Someone was talking about it this week. It was either on a podcast or an interview, and they were playing with a lady in, I think it was one of the No Laying Up guys. They were playing with a lady in a pro-am, and we'll say she had a Bushnell, and she was buzzing, and she was flushing the ball, but just wasn't really getting it. And she's like, just haven't been hitting it well the last 3 months. And then they buzzed it, and she said, oh, it's 175. And he's like, no, it's 160. And she's like, no, 175. That's why other way around. Yeah. She had it in meters, and she's hitting everything. She's coming up short for 3 months and hadn't realised that she had her settings wrong.
Trust me, that's a fairly regular occurrence. This thing's wrong. Okay, really sorry. Look, I'm sure there'll be an answer. Bring it in. We'll check it out. Make sure it's all right. Did you take the battery out after we set it up for you? Yeah, I just wanted to see what battery it was so I can get some spare ones. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. And I turned it back on. It was on fine. No problems. Yeah, it might have gone back to yards. So, I think yards is the default when they come out of the box.
Yeah.
And you've got to hold the button and reset it. So, yeah, no, we've had some people that have been playing with yards and didn't realize. Anyway, we get past that. Anyway, that's why I had to go to Sydney, Rocket, to test it in different elements away from, the normal confines. No, we had some stuff to do up there, which was good. But back to the point. Sorry for the sidetrack, but bring it back to Teepster and our valuable and loved listeners. I bumped into Golf Labyrinth. You can see the picture on my background there, Rocket. Do you know where that is? Where I'm standing? That's a car park of a golf club. It's certainly not looking at a golf club, but it's looking out from the car park of said golf club. Can you tell where I might have been playing?
No, New South Wales.
Yes, correct. That's exactly right. That picture is looking over La Perouse, over to the birthplace of this nation, actually. I think that's where Captain Cook first anchored up. That little part of Botany Bay. And, it was at New South Wales Golf Club. Can I tell you a funny story?
Mm-hmm.
Might not be that funny. I don't know. It was funny at the time. So I was in the room, the visitors' locker room there, just put the bags in there, putting shoes on, whatever you do. Storing some stuff for the day because we were coming home, and a colleague had said new rangefinder in his hand, and he just made sure it was on in the locker room and just pointed it. And at the other end of the locker room is showers, and there was one of the members in the shower. He said, I better not point it down there. That looks a bit weird. I said, yeah, you're right. That does look a bit weird. So put it away. And he was legitimately just testing it, making sure that it was on and working and all that sort of thing. Not on yards. It was on meters. And it was Golf Labyrinth in the shower. I didn't see him. We just walked out, and then I was out there getting ready for the golf. And then Cameron came out and said, oh, g'day, Ross, how you going? And I turned around. It was Cameron, who I'd met before. We'd played at Peninsula Kingswood. And, so we were lasering Golf Labyrinth in the shower. It was obviously closed off and all that. There's no hokey pokey. Don't worry about that. But it was good to see Cameron, and it was very nice of him to say hello. He's off on a trip, a golf trip. He takes great photos. Golf Labyrinth does. If you want to see good quality golf photos taken by one of the best cameras you can get, a Leica, check out Golf Labyrinth's page, and you'll see some great English golf coming up if you do follow Cameron at Golf Labyrinth on Instagram. But he gave us some nice feedback. He said, I really enjoyed the podcast, boys. And, Cameron is a very educated man, a very high achiever in his world of business. He's really enjoying the podcast. I said, you sure? You really? you
Which
are?
one?
He said, no, I really, really, really enjoy it. So I really appreciated that feedback. There you go.
Well, he'd be enjoying it because he finished 6th overall in the tipping.
And back to the real point, he loves the tipster. He loves the tipping. Really did enjoy it. Loves all the banter and everything that goes on around it. So anyway, there you go.
That's good.
That's a long story short, by the way.
I'm not going to make the joke I was going to make then. So
from no, you should. You should.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Oh, okay.
That's silly. I'm going to start at 10th.
Oh, Teepster, yes.
Teepster, the winner. Yep. So we're going to go from 10th down. Actually, we'll go from 15th because we've been doing 15th out of the data lake every week. So in 15th spot, we got Coffee. 14th is Level F Neb.
Ben Flavel from from Adelaide. SA. Well done.
13th is Public Golf. And now I don't know who some of these people are. You might know who they are.
No, don't know.
12th is Chipper. 11th is Lewis H. I still think it's Lewis Hamilton. Can't be talked out of that.
Probably is.
Probably is. 10th is Bobby, who is my mate, who's I think he's currently in South America doing it tough after being in America when he joined this. He was living in New York, then he was in Ocean Grove, and now he's in South America. And he was at the Open as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I should have told you to catch up with you. 9th, getting to the pointy end, Joe Tolomeo in 9th. We had a very good year, did Joe. 8th is the Shermanator. 7th is No 3 Putts. 6th is the Golf Labyrinth. 5th is 3 Putt or Die. Now, I know one of the putting ones there, I think, is Scott Carter. I can't really remember.
Definitely is. I
hope it's 3 Putt or Die because
I'm pretty sure that's Scott Carter.
That's good because then he finished behind me. So fourth is me, which is disappointing because Scotty wins and I probably finished second. Instead, I finished 4th.
You finished strong.
Finished strong, yeah. 3rd was Nomadic Golfer, who we have to give some props to Nomadic Golfer because I reckon he was in the top 3.
Scotty Scheffler. He was Scotty Scheffler all year.
All year.
He was crushing it in the majors. He was. I think it was up until the Open. That's about a couple of weeks before the Open. That's when you hit your hot streak.
Yeah.
And he was like pinging away kind of pretty much like at the top.
It's either him or our overall winner. One of them picked 2 or 3 out of the 4 major wins. Well, that's ridiculous. Unheard of. So Nomadic Golf, a very, very good year. Look, number 2 was the Doctor Marketing. I don't want to praise him too much, but it is a very good result. I can't argue with it. He was probably
and think, is he ruining the missed tip?
He did miss one too, quite late in the season,
and it was only a couple of weeks ago when he was getting all tapping into his emo youth.
Well, yeah, it was, and so
it's cost him
that even if he would have needed to get a top 3, I reckon, to get our overall winner, and our overall winner is Michael Lloyd. Michael Lloyd hung on. He had a lazy, what did he have? $700,000 win over second place. That's very, very good here. So he had 13.15 million. And just because I know you two want to know where you finished, because just remember the winner was on 13.15. Rocket, you're on 24th at 7.5. And Roscoe, you must have had a good last couple of weeks because you
finished on fire.
31st and you finished on 7.15. So you're about 400K behind Rocket.
Look, it was like a Melbourne Cup field where the quality stayers stayed right, one out, one back, right to the end, and then came through. But ultimately, no, Michael Lloyd. I know Michael Lloyd very well. He won't bid this. A roughie one. Let's see if we can get him on the phone. Let's see. I don't know if this is going to work for the podcast or the video. Here we go. Probably not going to answer. Probably looking going, what's Ross doing?
If I saw your number at 9:30 on a Thursday, I wouldn't be answering it either. We're like, what's his
mate? All night, Mike.
You have reached.
Oh
well. Michael Lloyd, if you pick up the phone and don't see the message, that was us ringing to congratulate you and tell you you've won a My Love Golf hat, T-shirt, and hoodie. Loves a hoodie. Michael and Kelly.
One of the cables and plug it into the roadcaster. Then anyone dials in, we can just patch them straight in.
Yeah, that's what that does. That's it.
We could do one of those things like the radio shows do, and they got to answer the phone with, "I wake up to my love of golf," and then we give them a prize. And if they don't, they get nothing.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. But anyway, that wasn't planned. Obviously, if I was planned, I would have had Michael on the phone. But I just thought of it. I thought I've got his phone number in my bag.
According to our run sheet, that is planned.
Yeah, exactly. Michael, you win a My Love of Golf hoodie. We'll send one for Kelly as well, and a t-shirt and a hat. There you go. Well done. Any other prizes? Any other t-shirts or hats we have to give out? I've got a box for them.
No, I think we had a voucher for the winner, but we'll figure that out. Did we get rid of who won? We still need to figure out. I don't know whether they got in touch with you, the winner of the majors. So they major winner. I can't remember who it was. I'll look it back up. You were away, so
you're admin on that. So
I have no idea. I'll figure it out.
Just tell me and we'll work it out. But Michael Lloyd, I see him fairly regularly. So well done, Michael. I
actually thought it was Nomadic that won the majors.
I'm just going to look that up now.
Okay. Where do we send it to Nomadic? He's Nomadic by nature.
It was Nomadic. Nomadic golfer finished first from Bobby, and he picked two of the four winners in the majors.
We'll get in touch with Tony. A great asset to Australian golf. He's documenting his travels around the country, and I think he's played 7,000 golf courses by now, and towing the Sunline or the New Age or the Jayco, whatever it is. Yeah, so he's doing great. Anyway, Teepster, one and done, and it was a lot of fun. Anything else to digest from the normal golf before we get into the new normal? No. The new normal golf. European Tour. I stayed up and watched that on Sunday night.
Yeah, Matt Wallace didn't quite catch it.
He didn't.
He came home well. Didn't quite get there. And Tristan. I
think it's Tristan is the way they pronounce it.
Yeah. Got there. Probably had played better during the week, or he started better, and was kind of up there the whole way, and didn't quite get there. But it's good to see Matt Wallace playing good golf. To be honest, it kind of was. You think about 3 or 4 years ago, he was really giving things a shake.
Yeah, he was the next big thing, and then he's just had some issues. Maybe not the right way to describe it, but he just hasn't been there or thereabouts. Had his Sunday black on, just obviously had a good round. I fell asleep for a little bit, woke up, it was a tie, watched the playoff, and Tristan just got it done, and Matty didn't. But the DP World Tour, what is it for? What's the future of it? What's it going to look like? We don't know. It doesn't look good, does it? They've what is it now? The top 10. Do they get a card? Do they get a PGA Tour card? Or does that start next year?
Might be this year.
Yeah,
might be this year. Top 10 on the race to Dubai, whatever it is.
Well, the thing is that the ones that have signed with LIV that usually would play the European Tour, none of we'll call it the guys that are sitting in the top 10 anyway. And the unfortunate thing is that the race to Dubai stuff includes a lot of the majors and things like that. So effectively, you had like Colin win the race to Dubai and pretty much only played like the Scottish and the British Open.
Yeah, and that's a part. So obviously, all of their all the majors would go towards it as well because they're co-sanctioned events. So if you have a reasonable season in the majors, you can have reasonable points. Like I would say,
yeah, and they don't include enough of the other events and stuff like that, right? So that presents a bit of a challenge. So you kind of it doesn't really tell you who are the top ones that are playing in Europe. And the thing is that I can't think of anyone that signed with LIV that is one of those guys that are in that young up and coming, or has been sort of in the top echelon of those. It's still a lot of the old stages like Henrik and Poulter, GMAC, but they've been stationing themselves on the US side for the last decade anyway. And then Sergio, if anything, Rahm probably goes back and Rahm and Rory go back and play more than most of those guys. But the problem with the European Tour is, I don't know what's happened in the last sort of decade, but they just don't have the same depth of talent as the US that's coming through the system at the moment. The younger talent that's coming through the US system in the last 5 years is ridiculous. There's some seriously good golfers coming through, but it's not happening at the same rate in Europe, and it's showing, unfortunately.
Look, I think there's some individually some good golfers, but just the tour's not going to be attractive enough for these players to not have their eyes on other prizes, put it that way. You know, they're going to start looking more at Asian Tour. They're going to start gravitating more towards, especially with, you know, some of the changes on the PGA Tour, and if they can, you know, get through that Corn Ferry stage, and you know, who knows? You know, that's no different.
Well, the thing is, if you're competitive by nature, just purely by nature, forget about the money. If you are competitive by nature, you are chasing to try and prove yourself. You are trying to prove yourself against the best. So you are going to go to a certain point in Europe and go, do you know what? Now I want to make my way in the US. Right? You look at even a lot of the Australian players. They will try and make their way in Europe, get to a certain point, and then now I'm going to pivot and go to the US because I've got to test myself against the, you know, arguably probably the best tour if you go by just total pool of talent. You know, Minwoo's trying to secure his card there. Herbie's already done it. Adam Scott went down this path. Brooks Koepka went down this path. The Shark went down this path. There's a whole journey where there's a lot do it that way, and they start there and then they move to the US. You know, Rory, Rump. There's a long history of going. They get to Europe. Thing with Europe is it doesn't have, back to that talent. It doesn't have it's not the draw. It's like it doesn't have enough of those 5 or 6 stars, which they don't have to be week in, week out, but they're the ones where it's like people are going, I want to compete against that person. Like you think back to the 80s and 90s, it's like it's Seve, Faldo, Monty, Woozy, Sandy Lyle, Bernard Langer, etc. And then there's elements of that into the 90s and the thousands where it was like it's Sergio, it's Westy, it is Stenson, it's, you know, Poulter and those guys. So the tour, Justin Rose, right? So there was elements of strength, but for some reason that last decade it's dropped off, and I don't know why.
Well, I think the fields are going to be weaker. There'll be less attraction for a lot of people to be there, and you know who knows what happens with it from now with the competition from PGA Tour and LIV Golf and the Asian Tour and everything else.
That's what people want, isn't it? I mean, I'm going to play devil's advocate for 5 minutes, but
yeah, go for it.
You know, I'm finding probably Twitter a very frustrating place at times, because I feel like the old guard, and there are a lot of people that are around Australian golf that want to complain about how the US Tour has ruined the Australian Tour, and there's certainly massive chunks of it that has, but also I don't feel like we've done the best to give ourselves a great product to ensure that there is a life there, right? And so now you sit there and go, well, people outside of golf that I know that are very invested in LIV, right? I've got mates that can't wait for there to be a LIV event here because they cannot wait to go, because they want to see these great players play for all this money because that's what they've heard and they're interested in that, right? I'm not as much. But the idea that we would all love, that I think we can all align on, is we would love to see a world tour, right? We would love to see the best players playing on a world tour. That would be the perfect ending. PGA Tour is not going to do that. LIV Tour might try and do that, but again, they've told us they will, but I get a feeling they're going to promise the world and deliver an atlas. And then on top of that, they're still going to be light on talent, right? So the next tier down is going to be the Asian Tour, who we will probably get some sort of investment in the Asian Tour from LIV. Well, we definitely will. And then that might well bleed into more events in Australia where we might get those secondary tier guys and more good golfers playing here that we don't get to see normally. Like, I'm not talking about the Dustin Johnsons and Brooks Koepkas. I'm talking about the guys that are up and coming. Now, they're not going to be PGA Tour talent as yet, but they could be up and coming, and it's good quality golf for us to see, which would be great. But that's about as close as we're going to get to what I think is good or might be good. But it's funny, like you're right, Ross. It's going to be at the detriment of the other tours, the PGA Tour and the European Tour. The tough part for the European Tour is they didn't have the structure that the PGA Tour had. They don't have the product. They don't have the money because they don't have the product. They don't have the sponsors. They're playing for less money. Not only are guys going to go and play in America because they're playing better players and to prove that they're better, but they're also playing more money. You finish 50th in America versus 50th in the UK is just not even comparable. So just it's going to be just really, really, really messy for a long time.
Back to your point that you started off with, and I know that don't know the episode. I know we talked about this one on a previous podcast when we talked about it's like I know what you're saying where you're seeing people talking about Cam Smith there because they the PGA Tour and whoever else ruined the Australian circuit. Like we've wasted, between Golf Australia, PGA Australia, they couldn't all come together and basically try and slice out like this 4-month period of the year. Had the opportunity when we had lots of serious talent coming down here that time of the year. We had the opportunity over, we'll call it from the mid-'80s peak shark all the way to like the middle of the 90s, and we wasted every opportunity to try and grow and turn the tour into something it could have been, because it's like there's the whole prize money, and then there's even the whole thing around taxes. Why didn't they all come together from a governing body and go, do you know what? The only way we're going to attract talent here is if we need to make it so they're not going to get absolutely just slaughtered by the tax man on, leaving the country. So create an exemption, because Australian Open Tennis have done that. They've done that and got exemptions for the Australian Open to make sure that they retain the Australian Open as a central point as one of the majors, because that was under threat from being lost. And there's all this other, we'll call it ancillary money and things that can happen around the game by building this out, and we've wasted an opportunity. So anyone that goes, the PGA Tour, no, they took their opportunity because there was space. If there's vacuum, someone will fill it, and we had an opportunity to fill it, and we failed.
Well, I think you can see how you guys say that if you've been following Australian golf for long enough, and you've got some runs under your belt in terms of age, and you saw what some of those big tournaments were like back when they were big. They were big. You just have to look at the names on the trophies, and not going back to the
Australian Masters in the 80s.
Yeah,
please, like some of the fields. Like they were ridiculous. Anyone go and watch Rob Williamson on Twitter when he posts a lot of the old footage from the 80s and stuff like that. He must have like a treasure trove of recordings.
Yeah.
But you look at some of the leaderboards, like there are some seriously top elite players rolling down to Australia to play the Aussie Open, the Masters and the PGA and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
and I should say, when I say, and I know I'm not going to speak on behalf of Rocket, but when we say what should have been done, it's all easy in hindsight, right? But the biggest thing here is there's no money and no investment in this sport in Australia, and there hasn't been for a long time. There's no sponsors, right? So if you've got no sponsors, you've got no money. So even if, guys like Cam Smith and Leish and Adam Scott, those guys have done really great in coming back and playing our key events that still exist for no money, right? They're not getting... Even if they're winning, there's no money in it for them versus probably just staying home. It's an investment in golfing in Australia that they come back, right? And they love the tournaments and they love the country, and that can't be applauded enough. But when you think about from a marketing point of view, and again, I know this isn't as easy as I'm going to say it, but there's no build on what was there, and we had players leaving to play for more money against better players overseas at a better product, and that's why they went. And when you got no people here that are going to be playing or less talent, you're not going to have as much money in it, and then you have less money in it, and it's just this cycle that eventually ends up with us having a 2-tournament season over 3 weeks in November, up against Thanksgiving and the off season of the PGA Tour.
Yep. Because back then it was like the PGA Tour would finish in September, and they'd have this kind of that hiatus. You have the European Tour; they're hitting their winter, so we had this almost like this 3 to 4 month window, and people go, "Oh, in hindsight." But the thing is, though, it's not about the hindsight. It's the people at the time should have had the foresight to fill that vacuum, and they didn't. And that's the problem, because if you're running a game and a sport, you've got to have vision and a strategy.
Yeah. And I know a lot of the guys talk about the wraparound season not being helpful, and it 100% wasn't. And I'm going to pick a player out of thin air, right? Matty Goggin. Matty Goggin has a PGA Tour card any given year. He needs to be in America to try and play the starting of the early season. Absolutely, no doubt. With all due respect to Matty, who's an exceptional golfer and clearly building probably one of the best courses coming into Australia in any given future, no one is turning up to the Australian Open to watch Matty Goggin, right? Yes, he is someone that can come and support it, but he's also not the person that's going to do anything. Rocket, there's a Tasmanian wants to belt me. So you know what I mean? Like the guys that are going to move the dial are the big name global players and the big name Australians. And do you know what else will move the dial? Events like the Vic Open, big name women players, and doing something different and integrating the two sexes together to play in the same event at the same time. And what they're going to do this year at the Australian Open, that 10 years ago would be a very different offering in the Australian golf landscape right now. Like we would be, you've already seen the Scandinavian copy with Ernie Els and not Ernie Els, Sorensen and Fenson. You know what I mean? Like these are the things that are leading the way, and we didn't lead the way, and that's cool. You don't have to always lead the way, but then don't complain that we didn't have a great product, so everybody left, and these guys are real pricks because they had this really good product that people went to play. That doesn't work for me.
Yep. Okay, well, I don't think the PGA Tour have made it any easier for the consideration of PGA Tour co-sanctioned events down here in Australia with their changes, because their changes that they've announced this week on the back of the big meeting with Rory, Tiger, and was it top 30 or so?
It was about 22 players.
20 players and Ricky.
Meeting up in Delaware.
So this is the top 20 OWGRs.
Adam Scott was in the room, apparently.
Okay.
Adam Scott's on board, I think. I think Adam Scott's all in. I think Adam Scott's taking on the from very much the outside, because I sit in Melbourne and work at selling cheese. Adam Scott, it feels like he's taking on that leadership role, like he the older statesman, understanding the landscape. I don't necessarily has the financial investment coming out of it like a Tiger or a Rory, but I think he's thinking, you know what? No, I need to lead the way and show why this will work.
Will Adam Scott give Leish and Smithy the same treatment that Rory's going to give them?
No, he's too nice.
I don't think Rory will do it. I don't think Rory will give him anything spectacular. I think that'll be what it'll be.
He'll probably just walk past them and not talk to them.
No. I think he get his knickers
the people the only person, there's two people that will be the antagonists, and I almost wish they would go and play the PGA Championship over there in Wentworth just to be antagonists, and that would be JT and Jordan Spieth. They're like a couple of chihuahuas.
Yeah. I reckon the only person Rory would have a dip at would be Neiman. And that's because Neiman was in the room saying he was undecided and then jumped ship a week later.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
So that, I think, could quite comfortably, I could see Rory having a dip. But for someone like Cam, who, from all reports, he called after the rumours came out after the Open, I'd be shocked if Cam Smith didn't just say to him, this is where it's at. This is what's happening. Moving on.
It's a good get by LIV, right? That's the first in-form player they've got.
I really hope it's more than what they've said. Because if guys like DJ and Brooks are getting 150 and Phil's getting 200, Cam Smith's worth 200. I'm not just saying that because I'm an Aussie. He's the Open champion. He's a Players Championship champion. He's a world number two. He's bringing a continent with him.
Let's loop back to LIV in a sec. Just on that meeting, and then the PGA Tour's response to everything that's going on, and their proposed changes to, you know, the big players got to play 20 events, including the majors. They're going to have big money events for all those big guys. They're going to give 500,000 guaranteed against earnings for players, including rookies. Rookies get paid in advance against their earnings. So, you know, it gives them the opportunity to put a team together, get some travel money and all that sort of stuff. Thoughts around that? Any, you know, does it?
I think the money ahead of time is good. It gives you time to set yourself up for success. I don't know that the 20 event stuff is in stone yet. I think they're still working around that. I think there'll be 20 elevated events.
Well, John Rahm's clearly not happy about it.
Yeah, I watched that press conference. I think that was misquoted a bit. I think he just didn't know what they were talking about, and they were just asking questions, and he just was giving his standard smart ass Spanish responses. And yeah, he sort of said, "Look, don't ask me. I'm not the one. Like, you know, I'm not the guy that you should be asking these sorts of things." But even the follow up question was all like, do you know more than us? And he's looking at like, what are you talking about? Like, I think that it makes sense because it rewards the guys that rewards the guys that they're worried about leaving. That's it. And if those guys leave, there's no tour. Oh, sorry, there's no sponsors. And if there's no sponsors, there's no tour. And if there's no sponsors, there's no tour. There's nothing for the next 130 people on the list.
Yeah, well, it was fairly well documented what the response was muted to be, and then what they're planning. And yeah, it's obviously an organisation that's under pressure. Yeah, responding probably too late. Yeah, probably changing their model too late to a competitor.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is that I don't think it's too late, but to turn the Titanic around the iceberg is very, very hard. Now, and you've heard me talk about this one ad nauseum, but they have an opportunity to fix a bit that is a problem, and it's that talent pool which they have an advantage over, right? Because they're not going to have to try and recruit. Because here's the beauty, right? LIV they're already bloated with over the hill players. They've bought the names, right? But they're not going to get the product. And Cam Smith is the first, we'll call it product, plus DJ and Brooks and stuff like that. They may come back and find some form. But the PGA Tour have the funnel of talent. So they need to actually, and this goes back, they've got that stipend or whatever it is they're bringing down for those lower tier players. But outside of those 20 events, this is where they really need to mix it up and go back to the players that are in those top echelon, in the inform on the Corn Ferry Tour. How do you start pumping them into the PGA Tour events and elevating them up faster, and stop letting them languish away on the Corn Ferry when they're hot? Like, because when a player is in hot form, like, why wouldn't you want to bring them up and have a story around them? Because that's what people want to see. New talent, new hot talent, had a hot form in the Corn Ferry Tour.
They've talked about that. I'm sure in the last week I've heard of them talking to there being some sort of way to do that. I mean, they obviously will get order of entry, but there's got it, like we've talked about before. It's no good being fifth on the order of entry in your criteria if there's no benefit for you to go there and finish 50th, because you're better off staying on the other tour.
And so that's the thing. This goes back to the weighting, right? So if you're playing a crossover event and it's not the Corn Ferry, if you depending on your finish should be weighted accordingly, because you're in and call it maybe strength of field or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So if you earn points and you don't earn enough, if you don't do enough to stay up there, and you've got to still continue down for the rest of the year, you going to that event should not be penalised.
No, and that's a bit they've got
to figure out,
because they will get their access after the guys that are on the PGA Tour get their access and whatever the other rules and regs for the steps that go through are. But yeah, there's no point for some of them playing, and they'll pass it up if there's not some sort of rationale and a reward going towards them getting a card for the year after.
And even some of these garbage events that are, the opposite field events and things like that. So rather than filling it with the, Omar Urestis and stuff like that, it's like if Omar wants to play, but dude, you may get a start on the Corn Ferry.
But he won't get in. He only gets in as like the if the Corn Ferry guys have said no. You're 100% correct in that they have to make it. There has to be something in it for the Corn Ferry guys. Otherwise, you will get Omar Uresti because the Corn Ferry guys are like, well, why would I do that? You just let him play because it doesn't help me at all. They've got to fix that, and hopefully they do. But if they bring in more players, it just means more mouths to feed because those top 20 events will take the cream away, and then you've got more guys underneath that are coming in, which means more guys that need some sort of support, which is fine. But then money's got to come in from sponsors, and you've got to sell that to the sponsors and have the money coming in. And that's going to be their balance, right? But
I think it's there's more mouths to feed, but I think we need to get back to a bit of that competition stuff. Still pump the money up, but there's a balancing act with you got to some of those, we'll call it the Cam Tringalis. You got to flush a few of those suckers out.
No,
and find some of these younger talent.
No, I'm with you. Right? I do get it, but the trickiest part about it all is if you don't support the big guys, then there's no tour, right? And Correct. So those guys are what is bringing a tour at all. So
and unfortunately, the trying to be equitable and support and provide, we'll call it a livelihood for a job that actually can be quite hard, and some careers can be short and some can be long. It makes complete sense, but unfortunately, the balance has gone too far the other way. Where there was
a Fire Pit pod today or day before that came out with Andy Ogletree, and if anyone hasn't listened to it, I'd recommend it highly for someone who's gone through PGA Tour School, Corn Ferry Tour, USM, first LIV event. It's played in Asia, played in Singapore last week, played in Korea the week after. Where he's been and what he's had to do to try and get his card is just to play golf. Exactly what you guys said at the start about someone who just wants to go and play golf against the best people and earn a living out of it. It was a really, really, really interesting listen. But
and I haven't listened. I've seen it and I've got it on the listen list.
Yeah.
But I think also I think he turned pro sort of in the middle of COVID as well.
So that's exactly what I was about to say. So one of the biggest things that happened that went wrong for him, he was going to play the Masters and turn pro, and then the Masters got pushed back to November. So he didn't get to play anywhere. Then got to play in the Masters, then turned pro, and then had to have a hip operation. So then missed golf altogether. And because of the way the scheduling or the rejigging for the tour worked, he didn't have status. So yeah, it's very interesting listen. But just one thing, like I know you said a second ago, Ross, about is it too late? I mean, it is late. I don't think it's too late, but I look at it and say, I would think the PGA Tour probably they knew this was coming for a long time before we knew it was here. They would have been working on a plan, and they had a war chest ready to go in case of emergency. But what probably cooked them is COVID. So during COVID, you got to remember these guys still kept getting paid.
Yeah.
I had a handful of events with no one there, but they still had to pay prize money and sponsors money had to come out of it and everything else. So that would have made a dent in whatever they were trying to do. And then Saudi Arabia comes in and says, here's all the money in the world to some of the key players they want to keep. Nothing's gone right for them for a little while.
Just to the point about the Australian golf scene and how we've sort of let that slip over the years. I also think in some respects that COVID might have, just got in the way of the momentum that we had after the President's Cup and the interest that was in Australia and Australian golf. Yeah. And if ever there was a time to strike, it was that time, and it just got ripped away. That doesn't mean that something would have happened, but the appetite was there. Tiger saying this is the best golf outside of where he plays, where he knows. And anyway, that's another who knows. But anyway. There's a lot happening on the PGA Tour. It's clear. Everyone knows that. If you follow Twitter and Instas and all that sort of thing, you can see it. there's a lot of information if you want to consume it. We've got a new event, a new LIV golf event happening this week in Boston.
Where is it?
Not really Boston.
What course is it?
You're the course architect.
I have no idea what course it is, but it's not. It's about 40 minutes away from Boston.
So can I say?
Yeah, well, that's like saying PK isn't Melbourne. Of course it is.
It is. It's like 5 minutes walk from Flinders Street Station.
Exactly.
I've been on the
No Stops Express.
No, exactly. I've been on the LIV website for 5 minutes before we started this podcast to figure out what the course is. I've got no idea where the course is. Unless it's called the International, would that be the name of the course? I can't find it. That tells you how well their website. And I'm not picking on LIV, so I'm sure people,
Did I?
Like you'll be on me.
Can you have a look? Can you look it up? But did I see right that the no laying up guys preemptively were putting in the codes of the suspected players before the announcement?
Yeah.
Why are we not that clever?
We're just not. We're just not that quick. So they were putting in Smith 20 and getting 20% off.
Yeah, Lieshman 25 or International Golf Club. Yeah,
that is what it's called.
International Golf Club, 18th hole, Wade Ormsby.
There you go.
Wade is obviously very buoyed by his new teammates in Team Punch GC, the Australian team led by Matt Jones. Oh, not led by Matt Jones, but with Matt Jones, obviously Cam Smith and Marc Lieshman. Pretty good team for Australia now.
It is. I would say. I'd say would have been hoping Adam Scott came over to fill in for Matt Jones, but other than that, it's not bad. I wonder if Herbie's had an offer. Herbie would have had an offer.
He's the sort of
the International is even saying it's from Boston. No, it's Bolton. Oh, they're confusing it.
He's the sort of player that you'd probably want in a LIV environment, would you not? He would fit that. I like to have a good time and entertain Moles.
Smash some beers and burgers with the fans.
Who knows?
I think he's always. I mean, he's obviously always wanted to play on the PGA Tour. So
I'm pretty sure he's a committed PGA Tour. It's been his dream. So I don't know. I don't know that from him or any other sources, but just observationally, I would say that.
Yeah.
So Team Punch, the other Aussie that's playing is Jed Morgan.
Jed Morgan is, if you want to invest $1 on Jed Morgan and he wins, you'll be very, very happy.
What is Jed Morgan paying? Is he 500?
Jed Morgan is the rank outsider at 1,000 to 1.
1,000. I was half right.
Yeah. Well, James Piot is second last at 500, and Chase Koepka's 326, which tells you how Jed's going. Probably not playing his best golf at the minute, and he's not that bad. He could easily finish top half of this field. Cam Smith is a favourite, quite rightly. Second best player in the world. Best player in this event by a long way. DJ, Neiman, Gooch, Reed, Usti, Bryson, Paul Casey, Answer, Garcia, Koepka, Varner. My boy, bit disappointed, but understand it. Leishman, Brandon Grace, Matthew Wolf, Ortiz, Howell, Charles Howell III, Stenson, Kokrak, Tringali, Lahiri, Swartzel. I mean, it really does look like one of those events you'd see anywhere else in the world where it's not quite the biggest event, but it's not a bad field. For names anyway. From world rankings, it'd be interesting to see where they all sit, but don't know. I don't mind Patrick Reed this week with no other reason other than he likes money. Why can't he win?
Rocket, are you watching?
Hope.
No, still not. No part of the needle's converted across to watching. Okay, Mike, watching?
It's on YouTube. It's not impossible that if somehow when I wake up on Saturday morning, because there's no PGA Tour event, I might watch a little bit. Rocket will be watching. Doesn't a football start this week? Was it for practice games for the gridiron NFL?
Oh, I won't see much because on Sunday I'm Sparrows and flying out to the US for a week and a bit.
Work or golf?
Nah, work.
Okay. Are you incorporating golf like you have done in the past?
No.
No.
It's too expensive. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And time.
I should say it's my wedding anniversary, so I won't be doing anything but enjoying the beauty of my lovely wife the whole weekend.
Showering her with
love.
And gifts and
yes. This I can tell you exactly. Two of our listeners will like this. There's 2 reasons why I married the best woman in the world, and none of them include her being stunningly gorgeous. The first one is we went on our honeymoon to New Zealand, and I took my golf clubs, and no issues with me playing Jack's Point and Millbrook, so tick. And the second one is we had our wedding anniversary this weekend dinner booked for Saturday night, and it was for 7 p.m. at a lovely restaurant in the city. And when the Bulldogs were scheduled to play at Saturday night at 8 p.m., she said, "So you're going to move dinner because there's no way you'll be paying any attention to me at dinner if the football's on." I said, "Thank you." So we moved it to the afternoon. So they're 2 very good reasons as to why I knew that I've married the right woman.
Very good. Well, I'll be watching LIV where I can. Yeah. I'm not the anti-LIV person. There are many anti-LIV people. There are many pro-LIV people, and I'm just a golf person, and I want to watch golf in a way that I can enjoy it for the brief amounts of time that I tune in and tune out. Quite keen to see the Aussies play. I'm quite keen to see what happens with Cam Smith and Marc Lieshman and Team Punch. We all know that I'm a big Wade fan.
No, I'm with you. I'm not definitively against LIV. I'm not really super interested in the product. I'm certainly not interested in the majority of the players, but I'm against the public investment fund owning golf, as in like owning the top tier of golf. That's what I'm against, if it gets to that point.
Yeah, I'm not a listener. Asked me some questions, and I appreciated the questions because I thought I'd give him candid answers. And I think I'm indifferent because I actually don't know I don't know where it sits with me, because there's parts of it where I think it's good because it's forcing the PGA Tour to do something different. And I just wish they would do more things to make, because it's all about the product and the content in terms of eyeballs. And then what are the type of events and the quality of events and the courses, and like there's so many things you just wish you could get your hands on it and make a change. So hopefully it forces change. The people who are funding it, it's a bit challenging to digest. The person who's running it and the ego that's behind that, like that's really triggering me. The stories that the players give for their reasons behind, like for example, Cam Smith playing more time in Australia. Please go away. Like that's rubbish. Harold Varner, kudos to Harold Varner because he said it's money, but it wasn't just about the money. He was thinking about his foundation and what he was doing and the impact he could have.
Yeah.
Right. So I give him massive ticks for being really honest, but really thinking deeply about knowing where it's coming from, but at the same time, how he could try and do something good with it.
And I've followed Harold for a long time. So he's mates with the Tour Junkies boys, and they've had him on, 5 years ago before he was anybody. And they're Dave Barnett, DB, works with him through his foundation. And I've known about his foundation forever. And he's nonstop working on it. Like you hear about a lot of golfers that have got foundations, inverted commas, that are tax shelters. But there are actually guys that have them that are actually putting money back in. You know what I mean?
Time and effort and their own spondula.
Yeah. Like this is a guy who, and again, I'm not trying to turn him into the Lord Savior, but this is a guy who, has a big property down in, I think it's in Carolina where he's from. Built a driving range at the back, just loves driving his tractor, I think his mum and dad might have lived in the front house on the property for a long time, if not still do. Dad still helps him mow the lawn, has a foundation, sponsored by Jordan, just living his best life. Couldn't be happier. Would have been a really, and just had his first child. Would have been a really tough decision to make.
Seemingly copped a fair bit of heat since his announcement on moving to LIV. You know, I saw a post there where he said, you know, yesterday should have been one of his better days of his life, you know, just on a massive paycheck that he can do all those things. But it was one of the worst days because he just got some heat from all and sundry, and it made him feel pretty bad, which,
yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? So this is where people will think of me and see me and hear me as the grump about LIV and all that sort of stuff. But here's the other bit. Them taking it and getting crap for it, I actually don't like, because put yourself in their shoes. There's two things. Put yourself in their shoes and turn it down. Unless you're already set, like, turn it down. Like, really, if someone drops, let's say Harold got 50 million put in front of him. We know what can happen in someone's golf career. Like, someone write a check and put 50 million in front of you, and you are told to rip that up or cash it. Go on, make that decision. And how many people are going to walk away from that? That's one.
And in real terms, 50 million versus his income versus me is about 250 million in my world, let alone in US. You know what I mean? Like, what he would earn per year versus what normal people earn is not even close.
Yep. And then the second thing is that I'm getting tired of the peanut gallery trying to take pot shots at golfers because they've taken the blood money. I know I make lots of jokes about it, but the thing is, though, this world is, and I've said this before, the web of compromise is very, very deep, and no one will ever spin their way out of it. So do not point the finger at golfers and expect them and sports people to be the moral compass when it comes to society thing. We know what happens in Saudi Arabia. Everyone knows. This is not about what-isms and all that sort of stuff. Do not expect them to be the moral compass, because there are people that should, in higher places, that govern countries, corporations, etc. They're the ones that should be doing all of the moral acts first and foremost, and not leaving it to defenseless athletes or even citizens ourselves.
There are many examples of the Saudi Arabia, the Middle Eastern countries, some of them with, not great reputations. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the Qatar World Cup fiasco, where they just, got a heap of Nepalese contract labor to come across, build the stadiums, work them in all sorts of torturous and treacherous conditions. Many.
Now half of Dubai's been built. Built with Pakistani refugees.
Many died
living in shipping containers.
Many died in the process of, we're all going to turn up and watch the Soccer World Cup in this year, and it's going to be fabulous and blah, blah, blah. And that's the fact that thousands, maybe not thousands, but I don't know the exact number, but a lot of people died working under unbelievable conditions that you shouldn't have to work. And
next time someone wants to rage type on social media, have a look at the device that you're typing it on and think about where that was made.
Yeah. Just to finish that.
I'm fired up now.
if you go to the Golf Australia website, and look at the corporate partners, of which Drummer Golf is one, and a number of other golf brands, Callaway, Bushnell. One of their corporate partners is Qatar Airlines, Qatar Airways. It's all about us, people. It's all about us. So, when we go, slanting these sportsmen for doing that on human rights issues and all that sort of thing, it's a difficult argument.
Yep. Why isn't the Melbourne Football Club being dragged through the coals? Because they're sponsored by China Air.
Anyway, I think we've made our point on that front. I will be watching.
Bulldogs playing Melbourne.
Bulldogs are playing Fremantle.
Okay.
On Saturday. While you mentioned the PGA Tour website, I mentioned Golf Australia. Well, that's what I meant. PGA Australia, PGA.org. Vic Open still not listed in events. Just looked it up.
I don't think I think it's more to do with the government, sponsorship and that sort of thing, rather than any other stuff. I don't think there's anything else not buying it. I don't think it's going to turn into an Asian Tour event or a LIV event.
I'm not buying it. Something's not right. I don't understand why they'd have in here.
I think that's happened in the past. So I'm led to believe that the announcement of that and everything that goes in and around that.
No, I know, but I don't doubt that. But right now I can look at this and it says 2nd to the 5th of March, New Zealand Open, TBA. 9th to the 12th of March, New Zealand PGA, TBC, Auckland, TBA for prize money. New South Wales Open, 2023 played today, New South Wales Open, TBC with the dates and the prize money. PGA Tour of Australasia season finale, TBC. It's all there. The only one that's not there is a Vic Open. And I don't know, that's weird. I'll keep saying it's weird.
Okay. Well, if you're following the PGA Tour website for the Summer of Golf, you might have already picked that up, and you might be following Mike's wavelength. I'm still hopeful of my Pro-Am spot. That's all I'm worried about. The Summer of Pro-Ams.
I don't know. I think it's certainly weird. Don't know. I was about to say, I remember a month ago when I think we talked about it on here because I'd heard from 2 different people a rumor that Cam Smith and Marc Lieshman were going to LIV, and people were asked that should know, and they were like, "Nah, don't believe it." So don't know.
Okay. You don't think Rocket? Sorry, and this is don't want to extend too much further, but Herbie paid back all the money that he was offered via his Golf Australia scholarship. He paid it back. Great. He's a champion fella. I believe Cam Smith hasn't paid it back. Do you think Cam Smith's waiting to do something different in Australia? There's talk about being in Australia more, and you're convinced that he won't spend more time in Australia, and he won't have a Cam Smith event for juniors or young pros or anything like that.
Oh, look, if he does, it's a tax write-off. So, and that might sound flippant, and people might get all triggered hearing that one and like spit their, morning coffee across the table. But the Cam Smith spending more time in Australia, like if you pay attention to his schedule for the last 5 years, there's a certain point where he can spend more time in Australia, and he doesn't. He spends it in Florida on his boat fishing. Then he rolls down, and around about November, it's sort of like CJ Cup sort of time. He might play there, then roll into Australia, spend a month or 2 here, then go to Hawaii and kicks off. Where's this extra time we're talking about? Tell me. Like it's rubbish. And the thing is that he's a really nice dude, right? I love Cam Smith because I think he's awesome. But is he going to be pumping money back into the game? I actually don't think so, because it's not to say that he's Scrooge McDuck, but I just don't think it's first and foremost in his mind. He's such a laid-back character. I reckon he just really enjoys being able to just do his own thing. And I reckon he might look at that as like, I don't really have the time and effort to do that.
Okay. Well,
I agree. He won't. I don't know whether he'll do an event or put some money back in or pay back anything, but if he has to play, so they've got 15 events next year. He has to play 15 LIV events. That's the rules. And then he'll have 4 majors. That's 18. Then we know he will play at least one of the 2, Australian or the PGA. So probably play both. That's already 20. That's his season.
It's the same amount of events he plays now.
Exactly the same. And until LIV produces the calendar, I would say if there's 14 events, I'd be shocked if 9 aren't in the States. So why would you live in Australia? You got to play 9 events in America still. I don't know. Plus the majors. So another couple on top of that.
Well, what we do know is that everything that we sort of projeculated about Cam Smith, that he would go to LIV, that he would take the money, that he wants to relax and just, live by his own schedule and, do the minimum and get on the boat and do the fishing, not the Australian stuff. But we talked about all of that and sort of summarised that that's what he'd be in his head. It would seem that that's been, proven right. He's talked about that as much.
Can I shoot another one then? They talk about
your podcast,
having more freedom for their schedule. They've actually taken money to a tour that has, there's no flexibility. It's like these events and that's it. If you wanted flexibility and to be an independent contractor, for those not watching the YouTube, air quotes, independent contractor, then you would play the PGA Tour because you can make whatever schedule you want. They've got 52 events for the whole year. You can do whatever you want.
That's the funniest part. You get to
make your own schedule.
That's the funniest part. I agree with you. And you sit there and listen to them and they say, oh, this is much better for me than that. And then it's like, okay, cool. Well, DJ's just had a word and he actually wants to play Pebble this year, but you've got the Saudi Invitational against it. Are you cool if he goes and does that? No, you can't do that. Hang on a minute. We're all against the PGA Tour because they're saying you can't go and play at opposite events, but LIV has it that they can't go and play opposite events. So it's exactly the same. Let's not pretend it's any different. It's exactly the same.
And what makes me laugh is that they file then an antitrust. So you've got a government basically trying to steal all the top talent, and you're filing a lawsuit on antitrust. Sorry, your behaviour. It should be a countersuit for antitrust.
Were you that, Mark? Were you suggesting that that LIV would have an event against the AT&T or the Pebble Pro-Am? Is that right?
They've done the last couple of years. The Saudi International.
Yeah.
So it'll be the same. So in this year, they've gone with the events the week after or the week before, big events. So after the Tour Championship, weeks before majors and things. Next year they won't have that luxury, and you don't think they can only go up against the weaker events. They'll have to have some. You would think now. That'll go up against some of the bigger ones. I don't think they'd be silly enough to go up against, say, the Players or, don't know, but maybe they go up against, I don't know, Genesis.
Gents, we're an hour and a half in. I think we've covered as much.
So much for a short one. Bloody LIV.
Two things we need to go through.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes.
One is,
yes.
On the official World Golf Ranking website, Cam Smith played 19 events this year, and he's already scheduled in for at least 20 next year if he plays 16 LIV and 4 majors. And we didn't talk about the President's Cup.
Oh,
we can do that down the track, but yeah, big shake-up with these guys leaving to go to LIV with.
I think I think the President's Cup. It's one. It's probably we need a couple of weeks before. Actually, it's not that far away.
It's on in 2 weeks. Yeah,
2 weeks. So next week will be the President's Cup prelude.
Cup yeah.
Obviously, as Mike's suggesting, with these guys leaving, massive shake up to the possibles and probables. We're already touting Herbie as team captain, but the rankings would suggest that he's probably on the cusp of the automatic selections. Who's going to be in? Who's going to be out? Who's going to be Trevor Immelman's captain's picks? Amazing stuff. The US probably still got a very strong team, even minus the players that have knackered off. Interesting times. Gents, are we done?
We're done.
Thanks, everyone, for listening in to this week's episode of the My Love of Golf podcast, brought to you by Magic Mike, Rocket, and Roscoe. We love having you on board. If you've stayed this far, you are one of the diehards. And if you have stayed this far, let us know. Let us know, and let us know what you want to hear more of, less of, and we'll try and keep delivering as we get towards the magic triple ton. Mike, who are the cricketers in Australia that scored 300 runs? 334, I think, is the highest runs.
Don Bradman, 334.
If you said here's
Mark Taylor,
$1,000,
334.
If you said, Mike, here's $1,000 for every cricketer you could name in the Australian Test team, you wouldn't spend $1. I wouldn't have the funds.
Yeah, you and I.
Matthew Hayden broke the Australian record. I think he scored 381.
Other than Mitchell Stark, one of my former playing partners at Peninsula Kingswood.
And I think Michael Clark scored 300 and something.
Oh, good on you, Rocket. You know your cricket. Anyway, we're going to raise the bat for 300. We've got another couple of years, or maybe 2 years to do that. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week on the My Love of Golf podcast. We'll see you then.